My mother-in-law stole what she thought was my phone to ruin my marriage, only to end up sued by her own daughter when her scheme backfired spectacularly. My mother-in-law is a total whack job. There's no other way to put it. She's crazy. I, 34 female, and my husband, 37, have been married for around 5 years now. Way before we even got engaged, just when we were dating, my mother-in-law had been an absolute nightmare to deal with. From the second she met me, she hated me. She has treated me awfully since the very beginning, completely unwarranted, by the way. When my husband and I were first dating, she would make so many comments that we wouldn't last, and that eventually he would get bored of me and move on. This continued even after 3 years of us being together. She just would not surrender the idea that we would soon break up. But to her dismay, he proposed, and we got engaged. His father, sister, 35 female, and brother, 39 male, were all very excited for us, and they have always been very supportive. But his mother was so salty, and she made no effort to hide it. She expressed how disappointed she was in front of everyone, which was the most ridiculous thing ever. But by then I was used to it, so I didn't give up. Thankfully, the rest of my husband's family are very nice and have always done their best to make me feel welcome. My husband and his siblings are very close, and he adores them. Often, when their mother is being too much to handle, it's my husband who sticks up for them. My sister-in-law is also married, and my mother-in-law gives her spouse a hard time too. And while that sucks, it's nice to have someone else who understands what I'm going through. My mother-in-law also made the wedding planning so daunting, since she would constantly demand things to be done her way. She wanted to pick the venue, the dress, the food, the theme, and everything you can think of, which made the whole situation very stressful. It got to a point where I was very close to calling off the wedding because it had become way too much. But we pulled through, and the wedding went off without any major problems. My mother-in-law made a couple of rude comments about my body, but my mom and my sister-in-law both yelled at her and kicked her out of the room. Besides that little hiccup, our wedding went great. I thought that after my husband and I married, maybe my mother-in-law would finally give up her tirade about how we weren't gonna last, and we could maybe start to get along. I was very, very wrong. She just wouldn't give up the idea that someday my husband would wake up and realize that I wasn't good enough for him and that we were going to divorce. She would so often drop comments about how my husband could do better, that he could be with someone who could give him kids, I'm infertile, and would try to offer up different women available that he could leave me for. And for those of you worried, yes, my husband stands up for me. Whenever she starts with her offensive comments, he will shut her down immediately. If it gets too bad, we'll leave, and he will not contact her until she apologizes to me. So while her attitude doesn't change, at least my husband does stick up for me. He's offered to cut all contact with her if I wanted, but I don't want to be the reason he no longer has a relationship with his mother. So I've always told him that it was fine and unnecessary. Besides, I was already used to her attitude, so it didn't faze me as much. Due to my mother-in-law's attitude, though, we did not visit her often, and we only go sometimes for special occasions such as holidays or birthdays. I feel bad for my father-in-law since he's a pretty okay guy, but we had to put these boundaries because my mother-in-law is too much to handle. This goes for my sister-in-law and brother-in-law as well. They avoid visiting her as much as they can, though when we do go, we're all usually there, and it's nice to hang out with them. This past weekend, we all went over for my father-in-law's birthday so that we could celebrate with him. We were all there, which was very nice, and we had a very good time. My mother-in-law still had her attitude as always, but we all did our best to ignore her and put our focus on the birthday man, since we didn't want to give her any more attention than we needed. We left when the party was over, and everything seemed to be okay. Nothing of note happened during it, at least to our knowledge, because apparently my mother-in-law really messed up. Yesterday, I received a call from my brother-in-law telling us that my sister-in-law was going to be suing their mother. My husband and I were beyond confused, and he asked why the hell she would be trying to sue her own mother, seemingly out of nowhere. That's when he told us what went down on the day of my father-in-law's birthday. My mother-in-law stole my sister-in-law's phone, thinking it was mine, and used it to message multiple random men for hookups. She planned to show my husband to make him think that I was cheating on him and that he would then leave me. So stupidly, my mother-in-law failed to realize that she stole the wrong phone. She stole my sister-in-law's phone instead. She had been impersonating my sister-in-law by sending a bunch of inappropriate text messages to random men using her number and her social media. My sister-in-law found out when she went over to her parents' place. When she asked her dad to call her phone to see if she had left it there because she couldn't find it anywhere, they heard it ringing in my mother-in-law's purse. Then the truth came out about what my mother-in-law had been doing, and my sister-in-law lost it. According to my father-in-law, who told my brother-in-law later what had happened, she started screaming at my mother-in-law, screaming and calling her the crudest things possible, and ended it by saying that she was going to sue her for identity theft and defamation. My mother-in-law is now losing her mind and is angry at me because somehow I caused all of this, despite her being the one who stole the damn phone in the first place. My mother-in-law has sent many voice messages to my husband, calling me the Satan in their lives, and that it's because of me that she felt she needed to try something like that. It's so stupid, and my husband is beyond furious with her. I highly doubt that it was my fault at all, but what's your guys' opinion? You guys are hilarious with your replies. Thanks to everyone who reached out. I have some tea after a couple of weeks, so get ready for it. My sister-in-law is not backing down, and she is going to sue my mother-in-law's ass. We have tried to convince her not to, but she is determined, and she is done with the wicked witch's evil act. My mother-in-law kept trying to pin me and blame me for this entire situation, but my husband quickly shut her down. He has gone no contact with her. He's blocked her on everything. I've also blocked her, so she tried contacting me as well. My sister-in-law, brother-in-law, and their partners have gone no contact with her mother as well. From what my husband has heard from his father, she is losing her mind. She's completely flabbergasted about how her own children can turn on her like this and other BS like that. My sister-in-law is going to try and sue her for theft, defamation, and identity theft. She's gotten a lawyer, and right now they're in the process of setting a court date to settle this. It's been a crazy couple of weeks, and I'm honestly proud of my sister-in-law for having the balls to take her mom to court. My mother-in-law had this coming for so long, so this is very satisfying. My husband has also hinted that my father-in-law is also growing tired of his wife's crap and has threatened to kick her out of the house. Again, I feel bad for the guy since he's such a pretty decent dude, but I'm hoping that for his sake, things will settle down eventually. But that's all the information I have for now. I'll keep you guys updated if anything else changes or if there are any new developments. It's been maybe a month or two later, and I thought it'd be good to update everyone who is interested in what was happening. My sister-in-law did take her to court, and in the end, they settled with my mother-in-law paying a hefty fee to my sister-in-law for the damage she caused. My sister-in-law got a restraining order against her mom since she doesn't want to see her ever again. It's a sad situation, but I understand why. After so many years of toxicity from my mother-in-law, anyone would get tired. My father-in-law has also decided to file for divorce since he cannot stand her anymore. My mother-in-law lost it when he served her with divorce papers. She apparently ripped them up, and when he tried to leave, she locked the door and tried to force him to stay. So, he had to call the police, and they came in and removed her from the house. They got divorced officially maybe a month ago or so. After she had been kicked out by my father-in-law, she decided it was a good idea to show up at our place. When I opened the door, she forced her way inside while screaming at me. I swear my ears almost started bleeding. I kept trying to make her leave, but she refused and kept screaming at me. Then, she shoved me, causing me to fall to the ground and hit my head against our table. Thankfully, it wasn't anything too serious. I was worried she was going to try something more, but my husband came home, kicked her out, and called the police on her. She got charged with assault for hitting me, and we got a restraining order against her as well. All of my mother-in-law's children, including my husband, have gone no contact with her and refuse to have any semblance of a relationship with her, especially after she forced her way into our house and injured me. No one knows anything about her now, and I'm hoping she never shows her face again. Ever since she was forced to leave, things have been peaceful. We visit my father-in-law a lot more, and we all get together more frequently, which has been nice. My sister-in-law is pregnant, so that's also really exciting, and I can't wait to be an aunt. My sister-in-law better sue that mother-in-law. She's crazy. She makes crazy eyes look normal. I think your mother-in-law needs a padded room, grippy sock jail. I, female 19, recently moved into a house I inherited from my grandfather. I major in psychology, and my university is close to the house, which is why I moved in. It's just overall easier for me. The house is decently sized, with a nice backyard and a high fence, and mostly nice neighbors. Mostly. Everyone in the neighborhood was pretty welcoming and nice, except for the woman that lives in the house directly to the right of mine. She's a very religious person, as is her entire family, and she goes to church every Sunday. Now to the story, I've been working on reducing my carbon footprint, and since it was a nice, sunny, hot summer day, I thought it would be good to hang my clothes, including my underwear and bras, outside to dry. Well, my neighbor noticed and called me out on it. She said something like, "Why are you hanging your disgusting underwear outside? You should know that it is indecent and disgraceful. You should be ashamed. My 6-year-old can see this. Take it down immediately." I responded by telling her that what I do in my backyard is none of her business and that she shouldn't be looking into my backyard anyway. Every time I see her now, she gives me dirty and disgusted looks and has also started telling people about it. I know because I've heard her talking to our other neighbors about it. As I said, the fence is pretty tall, so she must have really been trying to see what I was doing in my backyard. Now that I think of it, however, maybe I could have just used a dryer. NTA for drying your laundry, including undergarments, outdoors. It was common practice not long ago and still is in many areas. I've noticed a few neighbors who hang laundry outdoors in warm weather. Never have I noticed their undergarments. I don't think your neighbor's 6-year-old is concerned about your undergarments. Modesty might be important in some religious circles, but your neighbor is more than a bit out of line here. No, absolutely NTA. People have been hanging clothes on lines to dry since people started washing laundry. She does not get to tell you what to do on your property. You don't have to change to fit her deranged view of life. If you want to keep the peace so you don't have to deal with her, hang a sheet or your towels to block her view of your undergarments. My sister is a mom of 4 right now. She has Sloan, 14 female, Sheen, 13 male, Riley, 7 male, and Bria, 4 female. Sloan and Sheen have the same dad, my sister's late husband, Robbie. Robbie died 6 years ago. 5 years ago, my sister met Shane, her current husband. Shane already had Riley when he and my sister met, but Riley had no mom in his life, so my sister has taken over that role, and Riley calls her mom. Back when my sister and Shane first got married, Sloan and Sheen told me how their mom called Riley her son, how she and Shane called him their brother, but how they didn't think of him as their brother. They said that sometimes Shane would be called their dad too, and they didn't feel that way either. They asked me not to tell their mom because she wouldn't like that and would try to change how they felt. I told them they could talk to me if they needed to, and I hoped things would be okay. They said they weren't happy, but they didn't feel the way their mom wanted them to. Over the years, they've talked to me about not feeling a sibling bond like they do with each other toward Riley, and then Bria when she was born. They also don't consider Shane their parent, even though they call him their stepdad. They do think of him differently than Robbie and my sister. The truth came out a few weeks ago because Sloan made a scrapbook as suggested by her therapist. Both she and Sheen have gone to therapy on and off since their dad died. My sister went through the scrapbook and saw that Sloan hadn't included Riley, Bria, or Shane in it, but had included Robbie, Sheen, and their extended family. She also had stuff about her best friend in there. My sister talked to both Sloan and Sheen, and they told her how they felt. She then spoke to me afterward. She told me I hadn't looked surprised and asked why that was. I told her that it hadn't surprised me. She said I knew, then asked me how I could not tell her. She said I'm supposed to be her brother and that I let her continue thinking everything was perfect when her kids were putting up walls around their hearts. She said she could have done more, could have focused more on time between the older kids and the younger kids. I told her the kids hadn't wanted her to know, and I didn't want them to feel like they couldn't talk to me. She said that was no excuse. She told me I had failed as an uncle to all 4 kids by allowing this distance to grow. NTA, distance didn't grow, it was always there. Your sister created the distance by trying to force them into a mold that suited her new family and making them feel like they had to feel how she wanted them to. You did right, and you should continue to be a safe adult for those kids. They will need it. My wife and I got married on the Saturday before Halloween and just returned from our honeymoon, but we still can't come to an agreement about this issue. We always wanted a Halloween wedding, but didn't want to get married on a Monday night for multiple reasons. However, if Halloween had fallen on a Saturday, we would have gone with it. During the wedding, there was a conversation about having a wedding on an actual holiday. My mom said she wouldn't have come. Everyone was kind of shocked and asked her to clarify. My mom said people who get married on holidays are selfish, and she would never take trick-or-treating away from my sisters when we could have chosen any other day. She said, kids really only get about 12 to 14 Halloweens to trick-or-treat, and she wouldn't take that from them for anyone. My wife and her whole family were horrified. Honestly, I wasn't surprised. I knew she felt that way, and she had actually previously missed her sister-in-law's wedding as it was on a holiday night. My wife told my mom she was being rude and asked who says that in front of the bride. She said my mom was also playing favorites, and if our wedding was that unimportant, she could leave. My mom responded that it wasn't Halloween, so it was a non-issue, but my wife was still upset. She asked me in private to make my mom leave, and I declined. I felt that my mom was not disrespecting her specifically, just giving her opinion, and I wasn't going to kick my mom out of our wedding over a hypothetical situation. We by no means spent the honeymoon fighting over this, but I was wondering about it because my wife still feels strongly that I should have kicked my mom out. I don't think I'm the asshole. My mom was just stating her opinion, and as she said, it's a non-issue since it was hypothetical. She also wasn't playing favorites in any conceivable way, since she said she'd feel the same for anyone. She already missed her sister-in-law's wedding when it took place on a holiday. I do see her point. I wouldn't call people who have holiday weddings selfish per se, but I can see why she'd want to preserve Halloween memories for the kids, since they don't have very many growing up. She didn't say we should change our minds if the date had fallen on Halloween. She would have respected that, but just chosen not to attend. I don't think I'm the asshole, and I actually agree with my mom, even though I went into this expecting otherwise. Couples can do what they want for their wedding, but I can still think they suck for taking a holiday away from their guests. That being said, I'd still go and wouldn't say anything if it was someone close to me. But I did turn down a Halloween wedding last year for a couple I barely know. It was extremely overkill of my wife to ask me to kick my mom out of the wedding. That's absurd. She just gave her opinion, and since it wasn't on Halloween and didn't get in the way, what's the big deal? I don't think I'm the asshole, and neither is my mom. She was asked, and now my wife wants to punish her for being honest. I agree with my mom. I got married on Valentine's Day. Biggest mistake. We haven't gone out to celebrate in years. It's too crowded, and everyone else has plans. We couldn't even do the 25th party. I would never recommend it. And I assume when my mom was asked why, she probably felt like explaining it so people understood it wasn't personal.